So what's the deal really with non-duality and therapy? I mean, if there's no personal self, then there's nobody to therapize. So the idea goes that if you are dedicated to follow non-duality and agree with the principles, then therapy is not needed and may in fact be counterproductive. So what is the truth behind this? Should you give up therapy or should you do therapy? Maybe you're doing too much therapy. In this video, I'll dive in, unpack them in a short while, and give you some pointers to how you might approach this topic. So, non-duality and therapy. Now, when people go to therapy, say a conventional therapist or a coach, they will take a life issue and the therapist will look at issues to the past, anything affecting it. So the assumption is that the problem is either in the world with other people or it's within your psyche and your psychology and your personality. So then you're going to work with the personality. You're going to work at the level of psychology and dealing with the past and other people. So it's sort of outside. It's outside of you in the world with people, but it's also semi-inner in your psychology. This can work really well in a relative sense, depending on what you want to achieve. Now, if you've had a non-dual insight or attracted to those teachings, you'll have heard the idea that there's no self, there's no personal self, and you might begin to internalize it, that there's no actual separate self. So when you go to a non-dual coach or therapist who works with non-dual principles, they will gently bring your attention away from that problem towards the self who has the problem, or rather to see through the self that has the problem. See, psychology and conventional coaching does not critique the self, the existence of the self. It assumes that there's a problem that needs to be fixed. Whereas non-duality is saying there's no problem in essence because there's no person. There's no entity who can have that problem. So a skilled non-dual therapist will focus more on who is the one who suffers, who is the one who needs to be fixed. That can be really, really powerful. That is when therapy and spirituality ignite really and come together and foster the enlightenment by dissolving that one who has the problem. Now, this is where the problem arises, because this sounds really great, and for a lot of circumstances, it is really good, and that's all you need. But so many of us have had awakening experiences, and life actually gets worse afterwards. We get more messed up with an enlightened experience. A number of reasons for this is as you withdraw from society, the conventions, suddenly the whole lie of it is exposed. Also, as you draw closer to your heart, you become more vulnerable. The defenses start to soften. And with that, the upwelling of shadow stuff and repressed emotions can come welling forth. So then it does not help to have your non-dual teacher try to convince you that there's no one who suffers. Because what is real? Always go to what is real. What is real is the experience of suffering. So it doesn't help in that sense to say that there's no one. It might. It all depends where you are. So you have to be very careful here. What is the medicine you need at each moment? What is appropriate for you? So let's just take someone who's being overwhelmed with emotions coming up. Relationship problems. Suddenly all's going to hell. Do you then avoid therapy and coaching? Because there's no one who suffers. If you do, there's a problem because you might get involved in spiritual bypassing. So here's a problem with non-duality, is it might encourage spiritual bypassing, where you believe now because you have this exalted understanding that you no longer need to do your inner work. And the very pure non-dual teachers who only talk about, I call it pure non-duality, they're very much like Tony Parsons, people like that. They're wonderful, but they're not always the medicine you need at every stage of your journey or even every part of the day. Sometimes they're wonderful to listen to that, it's pure. But sometimes you need something more practical that deals with this life situation. What I'm interested in here is embodied non-duality, practical non-duality. Now that you have this understanding, how do you live it? So now you're feeling messed up, okay? You've had insight, but now you're messed up. Things are going to hell. What do you need? Go to therapy. So don't bypass spirituality. Don't take the easy route of saying, I don't need this, and wear your mask of perfection. Because that mask will get ripped away eventually. And the thing about going into the heart is it does get messy. It's hard to wear that mask. So you can't wear the mask of, I don't need therapy because I'm a non-dual practitioner now. What you do want is a therapist or coach who works with, or at least is non-dual friendly, so who can know when is enough of the therapy type of work with your psyche, and then can bring you more into the stillness and into the non-dual space. You want to tread this boundary between the two of therapy and letting go of therapy, because the other side of it is now this therapy culture that we have, where everything gets taken to therapy. And you might know people who just, you can't have a conversation with them without them starting to therapize you or suggest you look at your issues. That's the worst thing to do. Tell someone they should look at their issues about something really simple. Maybe you had a bad day. I've had that. You have a bit of a bad day. You say, gee, I had a bad day. My car broke down, whatever. And they'll say to you, have you looked into that? What the hell do you mean looked into it? My damn car broke down. That's it. Finished. Don't make it into something more. So that's the therapy culture. And these people will then spend a lot of time in therapy, and every new thing is an excuse to go back to therapy. What happens there is now you've built an identity around yourself as the one who's doing heroic inner work. That's the one ego position. The other one is you're building an idea of yourself as the one who's broken. Because therapy will subtly, it will help at one level, but at another level, it subtly creates the idea of the one who needs fixing, the one who's always broken. And here's a little secret I want to share with you. You can do therapy for 100 years and you'll not get to all your stuff. You need to know when enough is enough, and then you let the therapy go. When is that point? Well, for me, it's that point where the issue is no longer like inflamed. Think of a wound that, when it's inflamed and just touch it anywhere near it, it just yelps, and it affects your daily life. That's when you go to the doctor, you get antibiotics, you get treatment, right? You can't do it on your own. But when it gets to a point where it's sort of healed, it's just it's sensitive, but it's not freaking you out. That's probably the point where it's healing anyway, and you can leave it alone. Just let nature do its thing. That's when you leave therapy alone. So don't get caught either way in spiritual bypassing by doing no therapy, or getting caught in therapy culture and doing too much and thinking that therapy will take you to the end. Therapy is not going to take you to enlightenment. But guess what? It does help to make one more transparent to the upwelling of the formless that comes through. You tune in more. Like, if you can just enjoy more stillness in the day because you're not bothered by psychological issues and relationship issues and money issues and that bombarding you, you can spend more time in that stillness. You can be more, your meditations are less likely to be disrupted by upheavals because you're dealing with them. And you know what? These upwellings, sometimes they're not meant to be healed completely. They're meant just to be seen and to be witnessed. So when you take it to a therapist, a wise therapist or coach, who can help you with the witnessing and the experience, can help you get back in the body to experience this. You might need to experience the pain a bit, but if you have a therapist with you, they can help create the space in which it is okay, it's contained. So they model coherence for you while you go deep into the feeling. Can you feel how that might work and be helpful for you? So the other insight is that no amount of vipassana and witnessing the self will penetrate through to those core psychological layers and physically stored trauma. If it does, it's very rare. Don't model yourself on those people who are teachers and who have had those transformations. It's rare. Most of us take the scenic route to enlightenment. So you have insight, it triggers stuff, then that stuff you take to therapy. And then you know when that's done, because it's now no longer inflamed, but it might never be cured. It's always there, but it's not inflamed. And then you sort of go back to your non-dual practice, your vipassana, your witnessing. And by the way I engage with practical non-duality is very much about feeling what comes up. So the first thing we do is create a place, a state, a space in which it is okay to feel exactly what you're feeling and all that pain. So I've had that experience of having an awakening experience and then sitting once for 2 years, just every day sitting and watching and feeling into the gross stuff that comes up and the self-rejection and the depression and the anger and the frustration and all that. So you can do it on your own sometimes, but it does help to have a friend to at least listen. A wise therapist or coach who listens can help you feel it. That's the main thing, to feel it. And if you have repeating issues like relationships, money, that you take those to a therapist or coach who will help you unravel them. Because here's the other thing, spirit, consciousness, wants to have the experience of being human. It's not like we're meant to suddenly extract and be serene, angelic beings. No, we're meant to be here, like on the cross of crucifixion, divine and human. So you're meant to go through the act of healing, but knowing that you might never be fully healed because you're human. The other thing about people who do too much therapy, you're trying to polish the mirror too much. You're afraid of the shadow of being imperfect. So here you'd say, can you allow some imperfection? Can you really face the fact that there's a part of you that's messed up and might always be so? Take it to therapy as far as it will go, but then be happy with and the beautiful part that's human, that is going to fail. Some people you'll never change, some of the stuff you'll never fix. Can you be okay with that? Then that is the enlightenment. That is the Christ-like presence of being in the world, being the spirit in the world, being non-dual, embodied, not shying away from the feelings, feeling and processing, saying, oh my God, today I feel such a human. I'm such a muggle today. And just witness that and be okay. After yesterday's amazing meditation, today I'm a clumsy oaf of a human muggle. Then maybe it never goes away. Maybe that oscillation is always there. That is the enlightenment. That is your moment on the cross where you can love that part anywhere. Does that help you find a place for therapy and coaching in your deep spiritual practice? Let me know in comments how this resonated with you. If you have any advice for others on this, I hope it was helpful. If you like this material, do like and subscribe. And in the meantime, get therapy if you need it. Let go of therapy when you need to. And be with peace.